Minnesota dealers alone, our group of dealers can expect to spend upwards of $3 million trying to get their businesses back. The manufacturers will spend at least that amount of money as they fly in expensive orders from Detroit. And remember, while the dealers are spending their own money, the factories have deeper reserves and in fact are working off taxpayer money. They've taken huge loans from the government, and that's what they're using to run their operations, their businesses right now. So before we embark on all this, I just thought we would stop for a second. We're kind of on the front edge of this and just think about what we're trying to do. Minnesota dealers are going to spend upwards of $3 million trying to get back in to sell the manufacturers' cars. The manufacturers are going to spend upwards of $3 million to stop them from selling their cars. You know, what are we doing here? So we're here today just to pause for a second and ask General Motors and Chrysler to shortcut this process and allow dealers to get back in business with them immediately without going through the stress and expense of the arbitration process, and reinstate them right now. And let's get back to business. People at GM and Chrysler who made these decisions, who made these termination decisions, have themselves since been terminated. They're gone. Fritz Henderson and Jim Press and Mark Lenave and all those folks have moved on, and there's really no ownership anymore in these companies for these decisions. And I think it would be wonderful if the new leadership showed some compassion and re-engage with these dealers in a positive way to get back to business. And why don't we spend millions of dollars selling cars instead of spending millions of dollars trying to stop people from selling cars? This just seems to me like it's just a little bit odd, and we ought to be thinking about the positive and not thinking about how to feed on each other anymore. These are people who want to be in business, who want to sell the factory's cars, who want to compete in the marketplace and are ready to compete on their own, either succeed or fail in the market. And they ought to be allowed the opportunity. They're willing and ready tomorrow to put this behind them and get back to selling what they consider a product worth selling in a business that they want to be in. So this is our shout out to Ed Whitaker and Sergio Marchione. Please consider making the simple gesture, allowing these dealers back into their family of dealerships without the grief and expense of arbitration.
Hello, my name is George McGuire, and I'm the owner of Shakopee Chevrolet Pontiac, and that's in Shakopee, Minnesota.
Could you spell your last name really quick?
Yeah, it's McGuire. And I work every day at the store, and I've got about 40 employees, many of which are union employees that I pay their union pension benefits and health care and everything else. My business is a profitable, well-run business. And I could just say at this point in time, really, what our goal is we just want to get back in the business of selling General Motors cars and delivering them and servicing them and doing everything we can to help our community. So, thank you. Steve.
Good morning. My name is Steve Whitaker. I own and operate Whitaker Buick Pontiac GMC in Forest Lake, Minnesota. We've been a GM dealer for 55 years and recently moved from St. Paul to Forest Lake a couple years ago. But we feel that some very poor and wrong decisions were made by the Auto Task Force and ultimately GM and Chrysler back in the early part of this year that affected a lot of businesses, but primarily a lot of jobs. And like George, we have 40 employees, and many of those are long-term employees. People have been with us 20, some over 30 years. And there's a lot of families involved throughout this whole process of terminating dealers. It's important to know that dealers that are around today have made it through the last 5 years of very difficult business conditions. And if they were around in the last year, they're survivors. And we, like those other dealers, are a survivor, and we plan on continuing our operation. And we welcome this opportunity of arbitration to right some of the wrong decisions that were made. And we also think it's significant, at least from General Motors' standpoint, that Ed Whitaker, the chairman of GM, has been the first one to really come out and say that some bad decisions were made as far as cutting dealers. And I think that that's something that we as dealers, first of all, appreciate his frankness and his transparency. And I think that opens up a door as well. Now that the arbitration process has determined who's going to arbitrate, that they can move forward and as Scott mentioned, shortcut a lot of the expense and the time and the effort to reinstating these dealers that have been either wound down or terminated, so that we can get back to business, help the economy by keeping our employees working and serving our customers.